Ethiopia is doing right, that we are doing wrong. Kenya is also featured, Mozambique, and of course the reason why Mozambique has become the new girl in town in terms of investment is because they have discovered huge reserves of natural gas, and of course Nigeria there because they have huge reserves of oil, and Zambia there with copper. So these are some of the countries highlighted by the World Bank that are going to attract high levels of foreign direct investment in the manufacturing sector. Let's go back to the interview and, of course, pick up the discussion from where we left. Isaac, we were with you and we were talking about, getting serious and, of course, aligning our policies with our ambitions. How then do we do this? Wanjohi, I know you've done a lot of research on this area.
Yes. One of the things that we would like to see alignment happening in is we would like to see manufacturing sector being coordinated from one central point.
One central point.
So that all the policies can be harmonized. We're talking of a situation whereby manufacturing sector is fed by the agricultural sector. Mm-hmm. And if the manufacturing policy, they are not aligned with agricultural policy, in a way that whatever is being produced by the farmers is competitive, the cost of production is lower because there's high labor productivity, mm-hmm. there is a low cost of inputs. It is at that point that we start realizing our benefit as a country. Mm-hmm. I would like to see us aligning the agricultural sector, because agriculture contributes about 30% of the GDP, is the largest contributor. Yeah. We'd like to see an alignment happening so that when you're talking about backward integration and forward integration, when you're talking about value chain analysis and the benefits that comes out of it, we are not at a loss as manufacturing sector. Because at the point whereby you are receiving the input, it's coming at a lower cost. And when it comes at a lower cost, we'll be able to produce our things competitively. But besides that, it would be unfair if I would leave this studio having not talked about the cost of production at the manufacturing point.
Cost of production.
When you talk about the energy, in Kenya, we are offering energy at 0.5 cents dollars kilowatt per hour. When you compare with Ethiopia, it's offering at 0.06 cent kilowatt per hour.
And of course, they're planning to bring this further with the completion of the dam that they are putting up
along the Nile. Yes. Now, that one now says that they're going to become more competitive. And if we are serious about the Big Four agenda, we want to see a situation whereby this one decreases from 0.5, 0.15 to around 0.09 or 0.08. We will become very competitive because our manufacturing sector consumes a lot of power. That is one of them. Then the other thing, we need to look at double taxation. We have the county government, we have the national government. We'd like to see harmonization. When we are moving our things, I wouldn't like to talk about moving this from Mombasa to the inland. I want to talk about moving exportable goods from inland to Mombasa, but they are well facilitated. Because we are talking about exportation here.
Very well. You've touched a very sensitive topic here about the cost of energy in this country. Of course, we cannot rubbish the fact that we have seen a lot of investment going into the into the energy sector. We saw President Uhuru Kenyatta directing the Ministry of Energy, to relook into the issue of tariffs. I'll be coming back to you to find out how has this been implemented. Okay. Kalua, I know you're in the business of selling motorcycles into this country, and we know for sure that there has been a proliferation of cheap and substandard motorcycles from Far East. How has this impacted your business?
Maybe even before I get into that, I wish you gave him enough time. Because the power that lies in Kenya Association of Manufacturers, that organization is unmatched. If it is research, if it is the value that the organization that gives to the government through the treasury, if it is budgetary proposals, you will find this all tucked inside there. And I am also part of Kenya Association of Manufacturers in terms of heading the motorcycle subsector. And therefore, I may be able to answer your question that you just asked in a way that I would understand it. I think we need to, first of all, as I said, we need to be looking at the bigger picture, then run it down and ask ourselves, what opportunities are we playing around with? Talking about the motorcycle sector, even before I respond to the substandard items, how many do we have in Eastern Africa or East Africa? We have about 3.5 billion motorcycles. How many? Yes, sorry, million. Oh, yeah. Did I say billion?
Yeah, I used to talk about billion.
It's 3.5 million motorcycles in East Africa. In Kenya, about 800 registered, 800,000. 600,000 are being used as motorcycle taxis, the so-called border borders. These 600,000 motorcycles do transport 3 people in every 1 hour, give them 12 hours, and that will be 36 people. Multiply the 36 times the number of motorcycles, the 600,000, you find that 21 million Kenyans use the motorcycle on a daily basis.
21 trips.
21 million Kenyans are using motorcycles. Those are trips, if you may, because sometimes it's a return trip. This means exactly for you to understand that this is a sector that whatever you do at the moment, you may want to kill it, but it is on the upward trend until the time we will sort it out by having mass transportation. But go back. 600,000 means it is 600 because every motorcycle rider does make at least 1,000 shillings per day. That is 600 million in the pockets of people. Yes, in the pockets of people on a daily basis. No wonder it was reported just the other day, it is a bigger industry or economy than that of Safaricom, which is the biggest economy leader in this field. But go even further. How can we spur industrialization in this sector? With 600,000, with 3.5 million motorcycles in East Africa, and we are still importing almost 300 parts of a motorcycle for CKD in the country. We are not being able to produce parts of the motorcycle, yet when we started, and this was an activity with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we just said, why don't we do, by end of last year, just 5 parts of the motorcycles. I am so proud that together with others in the industry, we managed to do, like my company, Honda, managed to do 5 parts of the motorcycle. And these are the simplest of all the parts. The stand, just a minute. The stand and a few other parts. Just 5 parts of the 290 or 300 parts has created employment of 150 people in 2 companies, Meg Cushion and Pipeman. Just 5 parts from 1 company. If we just implemented that delay that was supposed to be last year, by now just 5 parts, we would be having 1,000 Kenyans job and busy making money.
Very well.
And you can imagine how much it can grow. So, and this sorts out the cheap manufacture, which was your question. The cheap bikes that are coming from different countries that do not have good backups, that do not have parts, they would just fizzle out because there is now going to be a policy that clearly indicates who a manufacturer is or who an assembler is, what is the expectation of an assembly plant, and all those things. So policy, direction, and non-delays. Like this policy was supposed to be in place by December. And we are glad that with the Motorcycle Assemblers Association and together with KAM, we have now come together. We have realized, I like this, we have realized that we are getting late and we are losing opportunities, and therefore we are looking at forwarding and making sure that this is done. So those those kind of motorcycles that
Yep.
are not very good will just fizzle out because there will be policy, and if you don't produce locally, you will pay 100% plus
Yep.
excise duty.
Time is not on our end, unfortunately. So we have to wind up. But before we wind up, I want to give each one of you, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I know this is an ongoing discussion. This is not the end of it. We shall be having this sort of discussions, going forward. But I want you, Job, to face that camera. I know the government is watching, and please advise them, how do we go from where we are? And how do we ensure that we maximize on manufacturing to grow our economy?
Thanks so much. We love our government very, very much. And we are looking forward as a situation whereby we are going to implement right policies from the lowest level at the agricultural level to the value chain up to the manufacturing level. And not only the national government, we want to work with all the county governments, because that's where the resources lie. The raw materials, that's where they are. So, welcome us when we come knocking at your door, because we want to come and look at the county fiscal strategy paper. We want to look at the budget policy statements and advise you accordingly on how the manufacturing sector will contribute 15% of the GDP. I would say it is not an overambitious target. It is something that is quite achievable.
Thank you.
And that 6% compounded interest per annum from the current around 6% growth of the manufacturing sector per annum, the difference that is there is still achievable, but we need to sit down and agree on the right policies.
Thank you very much. You have actually breached the 30-second limit, but I can forgive you for that. Isaac.
Allow me to thank you for having me in this studio. Allow me to call upon Kenyans to ask us, a country can only be as good as its citizenry's commitment to improving their own livelihoods. This nation is not going to have any other people. When we are talking about government, we must understand that we are talking about our own selves, because we are the government. If we have to improve, it has got to be a mass movement, a critical mass of people who are saying no to what is not right. Let us target on issues of value addition in the agricultural sector. We will find that food security is already in place. And getting to be real in some of these areas. Let us try and get into the steel industry to ensure that our cost of production, because this is a base that we must deal with, is highly improved in all sectors. We can only start, if you talk about Kenya, you're talking about the best country with all the plans and master plans and statistics that are somewhere in the shelves. This is the time now to move from plan to action. And this, I am proud to be Kenyan. I just want to call upon each one of us to take action. This is a year that I believe is just presented to us, and let's trust God for greatness, because once we humble ourselves before God, the rest will just fall in place, and we'll be happy to have each other.
Thank you for that sermon.
Thank you. Glory to God.
Gentlemen, what a time we had here. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, thank you for clarifying that government is me and you. Well, you are watching Business Insights. Today, we are unpacking the manufacturing sector. Isaac Kalua is the chair of Honda Motorcycles Kenya Limited. And of course, Job Wanjohi is the head of policy research at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, helping us to understand this issue. Well, you're watching us. We're coming to you live from Broadcasting House. We are back shortly. Stay right here.
and run with it. We may have been operating in a country where we did not have counties and with the kind of resources that they do have. We may have been operating in a country without understanding and appreciating and bringing together the manpower and the resources that we do have that has been used so freely by other countries. So our time is now. And we can look at Ethiopia. Why are they exporting or preparing so much? You cannot export, I think, in as far as I know, I don't have much background of Ethiopia, but I know one thing for sure. You are not allowed. The policies encourage the value addition on products like hide skins, so that all and most of the hide skins are produced locally. And because it is a raw material that is available there, then other countries, other institutions, foreign direct investments do invade the country in a manner that they know that their production will be efficient because the raw materials are there and the human resource has been very well trained to a point that the final product will be able to go out ready.
Very well.
So it's an issue of policy, and we do have what it takes to happen to deal with this. And I'll take you even just for a minute to the coastal province. If you take the big four and you run with manufacturing in the coast province, and you have seen what the extension of the ship parking area. I'm trying to simplify it for us to be able to manage it and understand. Increasing 68 fleet of ships per year. What does that do to the industry and the artisanal value of fishermen that have been doing this? Immense. We have been exporting, we have been exporting 12-point-something% of our requirement of fish, and we are exporting 62. Then, therefore, we need to be able to deal with this blue economy in a very powerful way, and also take advantage in the coast region for the Dongokundu kind of the setup that is going to be there for the processing, export processing area and a facility, the free economic zone that is going to be there, so that you can export so much and be able. It's $27 billion US dollars worth of investment, and then why are we having delays in these things? Just because of, in this case, I may use the word silly, kind of confusion between institutions. We are fighting who is going to go there. Is it the Japanese? Is it the Chinese? Is it? Get out of this kind of thinking. We are somehow
stuck, with international disputes on whether to go to China or whether to go to Japan. But you're also bringing out a very interesting aspect here of special economic zones, and we have been talking about CEZ, for God knows for how long here. I want to hear from you because we need to take a short break, and thereafter we'll be back. But I want to hear from you as manufacturers, when you see the kind of push and pull that we are having, in establishing our SES, how does that make you feel?
I would say that we would like to see the SEZ coming up. And in fact, that's a topic that has been covered in the Manufacturing Priority Agenda 2018. When the SEZ are coming up, we'd like to see a situation whereby the incentives that are being given to them are the ones that are being given to non-SEZ and non-EPZ manufacturers. So that we have a level playing field, we have a fair market for all of us, and at the same time, we will be able to create this employment that is required within the country. Because SEZ, they are the drivers of the wealth. SEZ are the drivers of the jobs. We have some that have been established, like 2 in the country. And we are looking forward to see how they can be harmonized within the country in a way that they are going to bring jobs. Because at the moment, the country is operating at that 9.1 level of unemployment. They're most welcome, but we're looking at harmonization level.
Good. Yes. So finally, before we take this break, I still want to find out from you, Isaac. I mean, we talk about, growing the local manufacturing sector, but yet look at the importation of second-hand goods. For example, second-hand shoes that we are talking about here, second-hand clothes, second-hand vehicles. Look at the amount of money that we sent to Japan through the importation of vehicles. Look at the amount of money that we sent to the US and Europe through the importation of second-hand. I mean, are we serious?
It's the way we think. We indeed are serious, but playing at a lower level. We need to be serious looking at the bigger picture.
Which one is this?
If you ever wanted to industrialize a nation and look at the manufacturing sector, you wouldn't go very far. You would just go down south and see what they did. If you stopped the importation of motor vehicles that are used by just gradually doing so, and I know when I'm doing this and when I'm saying this, I am talking about thousands and thousands of people who are earning their income out of importation of used vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay? But if you did reduce, I'm not trying to say that do it tomorrow, because even the increase of duty is already causing a stir in the industry. And people are saying you're throwing us away from business. If you reduce the importation of this, the used vehicles, or reduce the age because of the environmental impact as discussion that is at the ESC level, and then have a discussion with the banking sector, and then be able to make new motor vehicles more affordable and increasing the duties on the other side, you would be spurring a lot of activity in the motor vehicle sector to the point that institutions like Honda, Toyota, and others would be able to have manufacturing of motor vehicles locally in its reality, not just an image of SKD and calling it CKD and what it is. When you talk about the cotton sector, policies surrounding this so that importation of used clothing is not allowed to the country, because you know you are killing the cotton sector.
Exactly.
And you imagine what the Nyanza region of this country, if it had the right type of cotton that is hybrid, that can be used, that you can have cottage industries, that you can have clothing and textiles produced and exported. When we look at how many people may lose jobs out of used clothing, and how many people will gain jobs out of new the sparring up of the industry on textiles, then every Kenyan would be able to understand, because we all want to have and share the national cake in a way that matters. So policies and looking at a bigger picture in this nation and being serious about getting things achieved. You know, we lose it at some point when we lack the seriousness of following up.
I like one thing. You're talking about seriousness and realigning our policies. What is your Twitter handle?
Wanjohi JB.
Wanjohi JB.
Yes.
At Isaac Kalua.
At Isaac Kalua. At O'Brien Kimani. We want you to become part of this discussion. Of course, we are talking about manufacturing, which is one of the Big Four agenda as outlined by President Uhuru Kenyatta on the 12th of December last year.